Once more, here we are once more, saying words to you. No tank top today, it was too cold, and I haven't done laundry, so I'm out of outfits. You're gonna have to deal with the thermal long sleeve. Actually got some pretty good stuff today. So the first thing I'm gonna drop is a little sweet nugget for your email. And I know I'm not trying to get you to sign up for stuff, but this is only on Sundays, and it's called FS Blog. They call it Brainfood. It's on Sundays, but it's a really good email to get and indulge in because it's not like it has some marketing to it, and they're trying to sell you stuff at the bottom and whatever, but the person basically breaks down a lot of different life principles, I guess, and just always makes really good points on Sundays, and it's a nice thing to read whenever you get around to it. So the one they had this Sunday was talking about one more, and that's an interesting concept. One more rep, one more revision, one more practice test, one more try in general. And they went on to say more or less that's where the progress is made, is in that one last rep, that one more time. That one more thing, that one more attempt that you do on whatever you're doing, that's where you make the sauce. That's where it comes from. So, that a quote that I enjoyed. It's so easy to stop, but most of the value comes from one more. I just enjoyed that a lot. And I'm sure you've probably seen on my YouTube channel. If you haven't, feel free to go check it out. Basically, I was going to start a podcast, and I did do one episode, so kudos to me. I completed one full episode of a podcast probably at least 2 years ago, and I was up here. And the main point of the podcast was more or less just to be curious about other people. And I didn't want to get any guests that were people I knew. I wanted to be complete strangers, which you might think, why would you want that? That's pretty weird. And it's like, well, if you know me, then that makes complete sense. Essentially, what I did to get my first guests on this podcast, and you can go watch it. You can see the thumbnail. It's ridiculous. These people were crazy in the coolest way possible. Coolest, most fun way possible. The way I got these guests is I literally went to the mall. I went to the mall and asked probably a couple handful of people to be on my podcast. It's the first episode, blah, blah, blah. I kind of pitched it to them. No, not interested. Got so many no's that I was like, man, this is terrible. I'm not even going to be able to get a guest for my first podcast. What an epic failure. And I'm walking out of the mall, and I see this guy you'll see him in that first podcast. I see him, and he is ripping the biggest, most giant modded out vape I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it looked like I don't even know how to explain it. It looked like it was modular, okay? It might have had a full-blown 4-cylinder engine in the vape. And he was actually on the phone, and I was like, I gotta ask this guy. I gotta ask one more person. So I go up to him, and he's literally on the phone. I think he said with his dad on his dad's birthday. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to stand here awkwardly until you're finished up with that phone call. Which, sorry to interrupt that. I'd hate to interrupt that, thinking back. But I'm also operating on 2 hours of sleep right now. I'm about to sleep for a good 12 after this video. Anyway, he finally gets off the phone, and I'm like, hey, man, I saw you out here ripping this big, giant, awesome vape, and I just had to ask if you would be on my podcast. And he was like completely thrown off. He's like, podcast, like, what's it about? And I was like, I literally my goal, this is the first episode. My goal is more or less just to get random people on there and basically just be curious about them and talk to them about what they do and go from there. And at that point, his lady friend came up and was like, who's this? Blah, blah, blah. And I introduced myself and said what I was trying to do. And she was like, oh, well, can I be on the podcast too? And I was like, absolutely. Of course you can. I was like, what do you guys do? Like, what's going on? And it was actually probably around October-ish. And they were like, oh, well, we actually what we're doing right now is we're like corn maze, like spooky, the scary corn maze, the scaries people. They're the scary people at the scary places. And that was super interesting. I was like, no way are they the scary people at the scary places. That's pretty sick. I was like, any shot you guys would dress up as your scary people for my podcast. And they were both like, yes, totally, we're down. So we schedule it, and they come in and they absolutely just knock the socks off of it, in my opinion. I had such a good time recording it. I actually recorded it in this small little nook. I used to have the round table over here, and we yapped about whatever and said words, and it was really fun. But if I didn't do that one more rep and that one more attempt to get someone on my podcast, it would have never even made it to one episode. Now I did, excuse me, I didn't do any more. I think I just got such a high from getting two strangers on my podcast that I just kind of burned out, and that's a big problem I have too. And that's why also the first video I ever did for this series, I was very chill, I would even consider it mundane in my words. Not that I didn't say anything fun, I just knew that if I got too excited and, you know, had a big fun crazy time on camera for the first series, first episode, whatever, I would have totally burnt myself out. So I'm trying to keep myself cool here so I can just consistently do this. And yeah, so one more. Give us one more shot. You can do it. That's where the progress is. So long story short, I'll try to remember to link the FS blog email thing in here. It's just really good. And they've also got a nice website where you can go read about people and read about certain things. It's just, it truly is brain food. So I would look into that and, you know, read something interesting for once. Not once, but you know what I'm saying. Read something new. I don't know. Actually, I do know. I had to look it up before I got on here, but charcuterie is just overpowered, in my opinion. The combo wombo that we get with charcuterie board, just the meat, cheese, and cracker, is seriously just something that we should appreciate. And I think we take it for granted. Because that is such a banging snack, and it's so easy, and it is delicious every single time. Can't even believe it's real. So yeah, I really appreciate a charcuterie board, and apparently it was back in the 1500s. It's from a French, it's French. French made it up, and basically they needed to, there's something about like, they needed to get the meats like preserved. They needed to preserve the meats, and they did the slices and whatever. I literally just read the summary on Google. Excuse me for the yawns. You know, if you deal with me in these videos and I'm yawning and burping and stuff, I really appreciate that. I want you to know that I really appreciate it. And, you know, if you watch these, I love you. So, thank you. But yeah, the charcuterie is very overpowered. And I'm not saying it needs to be nerfed. I'm just saying it needs to be appreciated. So I had to get the charcuterie a shout out. Now this is a really interesting, topic here, and you know, over the past week or so, I've been reading How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I've been in there like the Half-Blood Prince, just writing my stuff and enjoying the book. It's something it talks about is being genuinely interested in other people, and how much that can benefit you in your relationships, your networks, your job, your life in general. It's really hard for us. It's hard for me because I definitely want to talk about stuff I'm doing. I'm doing it in front of a camera in front of you right now. So you see how I am. But the way that, one of the things that they expressed is, you know, think about when you take a group picture, okay? Who's the first person that you look at whenever you're in a group picture? You look at you. And that's not a problem. I look at me. They look at them, you know? And that just is more or less just principally speaking, you know, that is what everybody does. It's just human nature. Everybody's interested in themselves more than they're interested in you. So, you know, be interested in others genuinely, and you might make a new friend. And just going into not necessarily a sales, just a sales story. One of my good friends, his dad's a rock star salesman, and he has this quote, and it's "buy their effing chairs." He says, "Buy their effing chairs," and we were both like, "What does that what does that mean? That didn't even make sense. And he told us this story where he had a client that he was trying to sell this stuff to, and it's a big account. It was a big, great, fun account that he had his eyeballs on, and licking his chops over. Sure, right? So he's licking his chops over this new account, and he is basically just like, buying their chairs. So he meets the guy who's the decision maker, and they say words and they do whatever, and then he asks him what he's doing this weekend. Just kind of, the business sales conversation is kind of ending, and now he's building that rapport and more or less being interested in the other person and attempting to buy their chairs. This is what I'll get to the point on buying their chairs in just a second. So the guy is like, yeah, actually, on weekends that I can, I like to go and get the maple syrup out of my maple trees. Like, I like to do that process. Like, that's one of my favorite things. I make homemade maple syrup, and it's super delicious, and it's just a cool hobby of mine. That's what I plan on doing this weekend. And my friend said, he was like, no way. He's like, I've never even heard of anyone doing that. That's pretty cool. Like, I'd like to see how that works. Like, do you have like what does that process even look like? And it starts to show interest in this hobby of this guy who's a big, important decision maker for this company. And he goes out there and syrups trees with this guy, this person that he's met recently. And I'm sure they have a ball out there and have a laugh and enjoy, whatever, and, have a dollop of maple syrup. Ended up closing the account, selling it, ended up selling to that account. And there's no way that he might have made the sale without doing that, but the fact that he went out of his way to be interested in that person and buy their chairs, buy into that maple syrup that they like to do on their hobbies and show interest in them, that's what made him close the account. That's what got him the account. So buy their fucking chairs, man. And that can just be a really good life skill, is if you can figure out how to shift your interest to someone else for a minute, knowing that they want to talk about it in the first place. Yeah. I just really enjoyed that concept, and I don't have much else aside from that. I'm honestly in a weird frame of mind right now. I'm tired as could be. Yawning my little heart out over here. I'm about to go crash out. Might even jump to this window. Not sure. But that said, I'm enjoying doing this still. And I'm super pumped if you're watching these. So I'd like to get some more content out there too. Maybe me doing stuff aside from just sitting in a beanbag and saying words, or sitting on a park bench in a tank top saying words. So I'm going to be considering that. And I hope you're there for more content, and I hope you enjoy it. So that said, I'll give you some closing remarks. We are exhausted. We can't even say words. Probably. Let me think of some closing thoughts. Yeah, really don't have anything. It's not shocking. I typically don't. And that's okay. That's okay. It's okay to not have anything to say. Is that good? That isn't good. All right. That's another episode. We went through all my stuff. I'll try to remember to link that. But it's going to have to be an edit after I just smack this out into the ether and remember in the morning or whenever I wake up. So I gotta get to it. Until next time.